Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you for joining me. I find it increasingly interesting that these individuals that call themselves college and university professors to get away with saying the things that they say. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a college professor who made the assertion or the claim that the reason why law enforcement did not go in and immediately address the shooting in Texas, the school shooting in Texas, and take that guy out immediately was because of the fact in her mind that most of the children were, quote, brown children. And that was her reason. That was the reasoning why the law enforcement did not take this man out. You see this constant emphasis on race. It's just incredible. It's coming from people that claim to be professionals and educators that are saying these things. But what we're going to do, we're going to get into this article. It's a relatively short article, and I'm going to give you my full commentary on what I really think that these college professors are really representing and what I really believe what they're trying to do, even if they're not fully aware of it. So let's get into this article. And the article says, University of Pennsylvania professor and MSNBC contributor Anthea Butler suggested that Texas police didn't respond sooner to the shooting at Robb Elementary School because they quote, didn't give a damn about a school filled with mostly, quote, brown kids. So since no one else will ask, I will. These are her words, obviously. Did those children die because most of them were Mexican American and the police didn't give a damn about a school was predominantly brown kids? I mean, because it's Texas. And if you think everyone who isn't white is illegal, Butler tweeted on Friday. What are these people? And, if I'll leave a link to the article in the description box below. But of course, they give a picture of her. And I guess she's at a University of Denver religious studies, of all places in a religious study. And it's a picture of her with it just, I'm not, as a preacher, I have to watch what I say, but these people just make me, my stomach curl. Just to look on them, they look like they're demonically oppressed. She has this white hair and she looks strange. She looks weird. It's just disturbing to me. It's just disturbing to me, these people, man. It's just, Lord help them. The university professor has since deleted her tweet, which was screenshot and shared by constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley. And it has his tweet, he screenshotted and placed it here on the screen here. You can take a look at it on your own free time. Butler's comments arrived amid reports that police had waited nearly an hour to storm a classroom in elementary school where the shooter was slaughtering children, a move that Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McCraw later said was, quote, the wrong decision. The professor's critics have pointed out that the police chief, Daniel Rodriguez, Consolidated Independent School District Police Chief Pedro Arredondo, and many of the officers on the scene were Latino. Which is a rebuttal to her assertion that most of the people in the school were brown, they weren't white. So if that's true, then the Latinos killed up most of their own people. Anyway, Professor Butler knows that she can write and advocate without fear of university actions to remove her, Turley added. This is precisely what all faculty should enjoy as a matter of academic freedom and speech. However, it is a privilege often exercised selectively today, and I totally agree. If there had been anybody on the conservative side, they would have been fired. At the very worst, they would have been fired. Others also took to social media to slam Butler for her comments, and these are some of the tweets. One tweet says, the only acceptance answer acceptable answer for many today is race. That is all they see around every corner. The specifics of the situation do not matter. This is a clear example, and from a highly educated educator. One Twitter user commented. Anthea Butler is the new kind of college intellectual. Racist, dumb, and absolutely wrong, another tweeted. This is crazy. There were white kids who died too. This has nothing to do with it, a third wrote. And they had some more tweets here, but I want to read the conclusion of this. Since last year, the professor said that evangelicals, well, I'm sorry, let me go back. This is not the first time Butler has been lambasted for her remarks. Last year, the professor said that evangelicals did not follow Christian scripture, which I find to be interesting for someone to say that who's more than likely not a born-again Christian according to the Bible's instructions. But that's another story, and I digress. But rather that they followed the Republican Party. That same year, Butler claimed that evangelical Christians are white racists who, quote, may end up killing us all, end quote. See how they're using words to switch things around? In 2015, the professor also attacked Dr. Ben Carson, saying that he deserved, quote, a Coon of the Year award. So that's the end of that article there. My God, it's interesting. We're getting these kind of words of division from people who claim to be professors. Now, let me give you my commentary and my opinion on this. I think I said this in some video. Well, I don't think. Well, I think. I actually did talk about this in some of my earlier videos in the earlier portion of 2021 when I first started this channel. And I talked a lot about communism, and I still do now. But I talked a lot about the infiltration of communism, and I talked a lot about socialism and Marxism. Now, I want to mention something here that I believe is part of the reason why we're having these professors, these college professors, saying such divisive things, okay? Making such divisive statements, rather. In 1933, there was a group of professors that migrated to America in 1933 that were called the Frankfurt School of Marxism. The Frankfurt School of Marxism was basically a social system school that was created in Frankfurt, Germany in the 1920s. And essentially the school was really, and I'm basically paraphrasing this, was a school that taught a soft form of communism and how to infiltrate countries and change those countries into a communist country by changing the culture. This is also known as cultural Marxism, okay? These Frankfurt School Marxists taught this kind of ideology, and they infiltrated many of the institutions in Germany at the time. But at the time that they were doing this, Hitler was in control. Hitler was in control. Now, I'm omitting some things because I don't want this video to be get a strike on this video. At the time, Hitler was in control. So these Frankfurt School Marxists, out of fear of being persecuted, fled Frankfurt, Germany, and came to America. They migrated to America. They were assisted by a man by the name of John Dewey. John Dewey is considered by many researchers to be the father of what is known as progressive education here in America. Progressive education is a form of education that diverts away from classical education in America, which had to do with teaching math and history, classical forms of education, math, history, science, music, all of these type of things that America was known for. Progressive education takes children away from that form of education into a different form of education. Okay, and I'm not going to go into the details of that. He was considered the father of progressive education, and he was also a supporter of socialism and communism. In fact, he went to Russia and absorbed many. He went to communist Russia and absorbed many of their ideologies and belief systems, and from their school systems, and came back to America and began to implement those systems into the American school system itself. He also was one of the co-writers of what is known as the Humanist Manifestos 1 and 2. Humanist Manifestos 1 and 2 was a group of writings that essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing it, that essentially said that we don't need God anymore. Humanity no longer needs God. America doesn't need God. Humans can answer their own problems and deal with their own problems and circumstances. We no longer need God anymore. And so therefore, the whole idea was to basically say, okay, mankind is his own God. We don't need prayer in the schools, because at the time teachers were opening up prayer, and they would get up and they would open up with prayer in the school classrooms, and it would have prayer, and then they would go into their lessons or whatever. The Humanist Manifestos 1 and 2 basically taught we no longer need this type of stuff going on. We don't need prayer in the schools. We don't need and also taught there's no such thing as right and wrong and so forth. It also taught moral relativism, but I'm not going to go into the detail of that. The point is that John Dewey assisted these Frankfurt School Marxists, and he strategically helped place them in universities all over America and places, universities like Columbia University, Princeton, Harvard, and he strategically placed these Marxist professors in these schools, and they began to teach their Marxist ideology and worldviews to the students, okay, which was based on this idea of the oppressor and the oppressed, and that all societies are made up of struggle, class wars and class struggles. And so they began to teach this rhetoric to the children and the young people the students that were coming to the classrooms. To make a long story short, the children adopted the young people adopted this kind of philosophy, and as they began to mature, they became college professors themselves and began to pass this divisive rhetoric on to the other students that would come to the colleges. And what I believe is that this is what we're seeing today. A vast majority of the professors in the universities are Marxist professors. Their purpose is to keep division going, because that's what they have been conditioned to believe, that everything is a racial issue. Back in Russia and other communist countries, Karl Marx taught, let me go back a little further. Karl Marx taught the idea of the oppressed and oppressor as the rich and the poor. The poor were poor because the rich made them that way. That was how Karl Marx saw it. What we have now are neo-Marxists who teach a different aspect of Marxism. And that different aspect of Marxism is based on race and gender. Race and gender. Whites against blacks. Men against women. Okay? Male against female. Heterosexuals against homosexuals and transgenders. It's a different form of Marxism. It's a neo-Marxism. Many of their professors are neo-Marxists, and they see things in the eyes of the oppressor and the oppressed. In this sense, this Marxist professor is stating, oh, the reason why they didn't go in there and bum rush this guy and shoot him right away is because she's been conditioned to believe that it's all based on race. So they don't see things the way you and I see them. These people are destructive. Even if they don't know they're destructive and believe they're destructive, they are destructive, and their objective is to keep the division going. They do not see unity, and they will never see unity until America has been completely destroyed and rebuilt again into the communist government that they want. They believe communism is the answer for America. If not communism, socialism, which is a step below communism, because many people don't understand that socialism is just a softer form of communism. People don't understand that. It's just a stepping stone to communism. Why do you say that? Some of you may ask, how do you know that? Because Lenin said it in his book, that socialism is a soft form or a stepping stone to communism. There's no real such thing. There's no such thing actually as and I'm paraphrasing his words. He said there's basically no such thing as socialism. It's just a soft form of communism to get people to accept it on a softer form, so that by the time they before they know it, rather, they'll wake up in a communist country and won't even know how they got there. So this is what these Marxist professors are pushing, whether they realize it or not. They're pushing this idea that socialism and communism is the best options for America. And they see everything in black and white. It's all racial. It's all class wars. But they are the destruction of this country. And this professor is one of the tools of Marxism that is being used to keep everybody divided. As the article says, a significant number of the people were white in that classroom. And as that individual stated in the article, a significant number of the law enforcement officers were Latino. So if this assertion that she made was accurate, then why would they be killing up their own kind? Or at least related to their own kind? Makes no sense. None whatsoever, other than the fact that this professor has been conditioned to believe what she's believing. And as a Marxist, her objective is to keep the division going. To destroy, then rebuild. That's my spin on it. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button, share this video, and subscribe. God bless you all, and see you again on another Black Conservative with Ryan Boland.